I was falsely accused by my brother's wife of SAing her kids. My own family believed her and called me disgusting, but now the truth is out, and they want me back. Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's video, I've got a favor to ask. Our channel's been slowing down a bit, and subscribing is a super easy way to support us. It's free, quick, and it really helps us keep bringing you awesome stuff. Your support is everything, so let's grow this channel together. Thanks a million. Now, let's jump into the video. Alright, I'm gonna be real with you guys. This story is definitely gonna get under your skin, make you rethink what you know about the legal system, and hopefully teach you to never ignore those red flags. So, here's the scoop. I'm 39, working as a data analyst, and I've been doing my own thing for 8 years. Not because I can't find someone, but because I'd rather avoid all the drama and mind games that come with relationships today. I'd prefer rocking out to Metallica, hitting the gym till my shoulders burn, and living life without someone always testing my limits. This whole mess kicked off when my younger brother Derek struck gold with his tech startup. Derek's 34 and has been hustling through the rough world of startups, living on cheap noodles and false promises like every other tech geek in Silicon Valley. He's got full custody of his kids, Eliza and Jake, after his ex moved across the country. So, he's been balancing single dad life while trying to make it big. Then boom, his blockchain company gets scooped up by Microsoft for a ridiculous amount of money, like retire at 34, buy an island kind of money. I wasn't jealous. Derek's a good guy who deserved a break. I've got my own life built from the ground up over 20 years, but I know what happens when regular guys hit the jackpot. All the leeches in the area start crawling out. Derek went full-on new money mode, snapping up designer stuff, a Tesla that costs more than most houses, and a fancy penthouse. Classic moves, but hey, it's his money. Then, in comes Sophia. They met 6 months after Derek's big win. She claimed to be a freelance photographer but acted like she came from old money, always perfect, with makeup that probably took an hour to do, a handbag more expensive than my bike, and nails always on point. She said she was between apartments while building her portfolio, but I could spot the warning signs from a mile away. I've seen her type a couple of times, so I knew what was up. Here's the thing with these pro gold diggers, they're not the stereotypical ones you expect. The top tier ones are smart and sly, they study their prey. They're like scientists, understanding psychology, researching their targets, and moving with precision. Derek was smitten from the get-go, going on about this amazing woman who understood his creative vision. Dude writes database queries and watches Netflix, but whatever. I've been around long enough to notice certain behaviors, how some people sneakily ask about your financials during small talk, the way they up their asks once they think they've got you wrapped around their finger, and the subtle manipulation most guys miss. Sophia set off all my alarm bells from the start. But the rest of the family? They ate up her act. My parents thought she was sweet and perfect for Derek. My sister went on about how classy she was compared to Derek's ex. Everyone was asking when Derek's gonna pop the question to his amazing new girlfriend. Sophia moved in after just 2 weeks, claiming her living situation fell through last minute. Weird how her photography gear never seemed to appear. No cameras, no lights, no editing setup, nothing professional. When I asked about her work, she'd dodge with vague talk about lifestyle and branding. Then she started dropping hints about financial stuff, fancy restaurants she used to go to, her old BMW, her friend's boyfriend gifting expensive jewelry. Never outright demands, just laying the groundwork for what quality guys should provide. I caught her at Christmas dinner, on her phone googling Derek Chen net worth Microsoft buyout. Not even trying to hide it. When she noticed me watching, she switched to Instagram as if nothing happened. That clinched it for me. She was a pro, and my brother was her target. I tried to warn Derek, but, you know how it is, guys don't listen when they're getting attention and ego boosts from someone attractive. Logic just bounces right off. She moved in after 2 weeks and hadn't chipped in a single cent for anything. I tried to point this out during a workout session. His response? You don't get our dynamic. She needs time to feel secure. Classic Derek, getting caught up and rationalizing everything. So, I backed off. Let him learn the hard way. Sometimes you just have to let people make their own mistakes. But I was ready for when it all went south, as it usually does. After New Year's, Sophia started pushing her luck more. She wanted keys to Derek's place for convenience. She told him she needed access to his Amazon account to order stuff for her work. You see where this is going. She even cornered me at Derek's party, making it clear she knew what she was doing and letting me know she wasn't planning on leaving. We'll see where this goes, but I've got my eyes wide open now. So, Sophia never really shared anything personal, like stuff about her family, childhood, or past relationships. When people asked about her photography business, she would quickly switch the topic to how great Derek was doing. She was seriously good at dodging questions. Her requests for money got more intense too, like when she needed the exact amount for car repairs that Derek had just mentioned investing. Or when her sister apparently had a medical emergency that coincidentally required his entire quarterly bonus. It was always some urgent thing that needed cash right away. By the time spring rolled around, she was suddenly talking about opening joint bank accounts and suggesting Derek should help her parents with their mortgage. It was like she was all about family financial security, which seems super sweet, right? But guys like Derek usually don't see women like Sophia coming because they don't just take over, they slowly make small requests until suddenly they have full access to everything. But Derek eventually realized something was off. He came to me one night, looking all worried, saying he might have messed things up with Sophia. Turns out he'd been keeping an eye on their expenses because something didn't add up. She claimed she had no money, yet she was spending like crazy on expensive skincare, daily $8 coffees, and $80 nail appointments. Clearly, something was fishy. He asked me what to do, and I told him he should confront her directly. If she was lying about her career, who knows what else she was lying about. Derek was a nice guy who had just gone through a tough divorce, so he was vulnerable when Sophia swooped in with all this attention. He wanted to believe in her, but reality was finally kicking in. I warned him to be careful, though, because people can get nasty when you expose their scams. So, 2 days later, he confronted Sophia about everything. She tried all the tricks, crying, playing the victim, threatening to leave, but Derek stood his ground and asked her to back up her stories with proof. When that didn't work, she tried to blame it all on me, making up lies about how I was interfering in their relationship. But Derek saw through it and kicked her out, changing the locks and cutting her off. I thought that was the end, but boy, was I wrong. 3 days later, I had Child Protective Services and a cop at my door, accusing me of some horrible things based on completely false reports. They claimed Derek had filed charges against me, which was wild because they were based entirely on Sophia's lies. They dragged me down to the station for questioning, and my life just fell apart. Accusations like that aren't easy to shake off, especially when they're so detailed. They searched my apartment, my boss wanted answers, and my parents were freaking out. My mom didn't even give me a chance to defend myself and just blamed me for getting involved in Derek's mess. That's when it hit me, my family would rather believe something awful about me because it was easier than admitting they'd been duped by Sophia. So, my life totally fell apart because of Sophia. Once the legal stuff kicked off, it was like a snowball rolling downhill, fast. They grabbed all my electronics, turned my place upside down, and chatted up my neighbors about how I act around kids. They even put me on leave from work until they figured things out. Plus, I got hit with a restraining order that says I can't go near schools, parks, or any place with kids, like I'm super keen to hang around those sticky little goblins anyway. In just 2 days, I went from being a successful data analyst to being seen as some child predator. All because I tried to warn my brother, Derek, about his sketchy girlfriend. And the worst part? Derek knew exactly what Sophia was up to. He'd spent weeks untangling her lies, but when she turned those lies on me, he bought every word. My own brother sided with his manipulative ex over me. Big shout out to my buddy Big Jake, though, he stuck with me through this mess. We've been tight since college, and he knew the accusations were total BS. When I called him in a panic, he was like, "Man, you barely tolerate kids on a good day. This is clearly some revenge from that gold-digging psycho." And he was right, I'm not a kid person. I find them exhausting, and unless it's for my niece and nephew, Eliza and Jake Jr., I'm not really around them. I did the usual uncle stuff, taught Jake how to throw a football last summer, played Mario Kart with Eliza a few times. Totally normal interactions, but those false accusations didn't need to make sense to ruin my life. Once the investigation started, everything was hell. I had to hire a lawyer who deals with this kind of stuff, which set me back $45,000 just to get started. Plus, with that restraining order, I had to move out of my apartment because there was a school too close by. Finding a new place was a nightmare. Background checks were exposing this nightmare of an investigation. I ended up in a sketchy studio apartment with a shady landlord who didn't ask questions as long as I paid in cash. Work got worse fast. HR dragged me in to talk about the allegations. Even though I tried to explain it was just revenge, company policy was zero tolerance. They fired me on the spot, no severance, no unemployment, nothing. I lost a career I'd built over 20 years overnight. All my professional contacts dried up because everyone knew why I got canned. My family bailed on me, too. My sister blocked my number, extended family disappeared, and Derek kept playing the heroic dad card to everyone else while actually helping the prosecutors. The investigation dragged on for 9 grueling months while experts combed through every bite of my data, interviewed everyone I'd ever known, looking for a crime that never happened. My lawyer laid it out for me at our first meeting. If they nailed me with everything, 2 counts of child abuse, 1 of exploitation, I could face 15 to 30 years in prison, maybe more. And at 36, that meant getting out when I was retirement age, if at all. The prosecution was serious, with a 78% conviction rate. They were all about protecting the kids, so we needed solid proof of my innocence, not just poking holes in their case. We dug into everything: Derek's phone records, family event photos, my work schedule. Interviewed every family member who saw me interact with Eliza and Jake Jr. It was frustrating because Sophia timed her accusations perfectly, not during specific events, just vague family times with no clear alibis. How do you prove you didn't do something inappropriate at a random barbecue months ago? Meanwhile, Sophia played the concerned stepmom role perfectly. Even though she was just the girlfriend, she testified multiple times, and her story lined up perfectly for the prosecution. She was their star witness, acting like she was bravely protecting innocent kids from a predator. Thank goodness for honest kids, though. Eliza and Jake Jr. were interviewed repeatedly by child specialists, and they always described normal uncle stuff: homework help, video games, football lessons. No weird touching, no secret chats. But in these cases, even when kids deny abuse, prosecutors can twist it, say the kids are protecting their abuser or too scared to tell the truth. Outside of court, life was no better. Neighbors treated me like I had the plague. Parents would yank their kids inside when I walked by. Some paranoid soccer mom even called the cops on me for just walking to the grocery store. Month after month dragged on with no progress. The prosecution kept delaying to find more evidence. My lawyer thought they knew their case was weak but were hoping for something new to pop up. I was stuck, couldn't work, couldn't convince my mom I didn't do it. Every court visit was mental torture, sitting there while the prosecution painted me as a monster. Man, watching Sophia put on her little act, wiping her tears with tissues as she spun her lies was just incredible. And seeing Derek there, backing up her story in court, was the cherry on top. The worst part was this preliminary hearing when they read out all the nasty things I was accused of. Imagine being in a room with 20 people getting to hear every awful detail of what I supposedly did. And there was the court reporter, making sure it was all official, attaching my name to a bunch of lies. During all this, Big Jake was my rock. He showed up with groceries when I couldn't face the world and helped me with job applications when my brain was too scrambled to focus. Most importantly, he never doubted me, not once. "This is straight up character assassination," he'd say while we were in his garage lifting weights. "That psycho knows exactly how to push your buttons, but the truth will come out." He was the little sliver of hope I desperately needed. Even after 7 months, when I was seriously thinking about taking a plea deal, Jake kept me grounded. My lawyer had found some holes in Sophia's timeline, but nothing big enough to turn the tide. The prosecution dangled a deal in front of me: 7 years if I pled guilty to lesser charges of inappropriate touching instead of the full heavy stuff. My lawyer told me it wasn't about guilt, it was a business decision. "You'd be out in 4 with good behavior," he said. And I'll admit, the idea of 7 years compared to 30 looked tempting. At least I'd have some life left afterward. But what kept me going was pure, unfiltered rage. I was furious at Sophia for weaving this mess and at Derek for believing the worst about me. That betrayal felt like a punch to the gut. This wasn't some random psycho wanting to ruin me for fun. It was my own brother deciding to believe a twisted version of me instead of standing by my side. Despite all this, I'm not the type to stay down. I was plotting my comeback in between surviving this hell. Then, after 9 long months, my lawyer hit me with news that turned everything on its head. Investigators found Sophia's complete digital trail, and it was more incriminating than we could have dreamed. Her browser history was like a blueprint for setting someone up. She'd Googled things like how to get Child Protective Services involved and how to make false accusations stick. The big breakthrough came when they tracked down Sophia's roommate. At first, she didn't want to talk, but once she knew I was facing 30 years for nothing, her conscience took over. She handed over texts where Sophia talked about getting rid of me for good and ensuring Derek wouldn't talk to his toxic brother again. The roommate thought it was just family drama, not a setup for false charges. Even the most biased prosecutors couldn't ignore that. Sophia's story shifted every time she talked to investigators. At first, she said things happen at family events with tons of witnesses. Then suddenly, it was just me and Jake at my place, except security footage showed Jake had never been there. She claimed I'd given Eliza a secret phone too, but phone records showed that was a lie. Each version contradicted the one before. And then we found out she filed her report just 72 hours after Derek dumped her and cut off her money train. She'd lived with Derek and the kids for 8 months without saying a word until her financial support was gone. That was more than fishy, it was damning. My lawyer laid out all the evidence for the lead prosecutor in a marathon meeting. Digital evidence, texts proving her vengeful motives, timeline inconsistencies, and her ever-changing story. The next morning, my lawyer called me with the news I'd been hanging on for: all charges dropped. It was official, the accusations were malicious lies to cause me harm. You'd think I'd be celebrating, right? But I just sat there in my dingy apartment, staring blankly at the wall. No tears, no joy, just nothing. It felt like being told you're cancer-free but already losing both legs. I mean, sure, I was legally cleared, but my life was permanently scarred. 9 months of character assassination doesn't just disappear. The rage was still there, and I was ready to burn bridges for good. Trying to go back to my old job was a joke. They'd filled my position and wanted nothing to do with someone legally questionable. Other companies knew about the investigation and treated me like damaged goods. Even with all charges dropped, my career was in ruins. It took me 8 painful months to find work again, and it was a massive step down, smaller company, 30% pay cut, essentially starting over at 37, all because some gold digger decided to use child abuse accusations for revenge. Derek had the nerve to try to patch things up, showing up at my place with some weak apology, claiming he had to protect his kids and hoped I'd get it. No way. You chose to believe her over me, your own brother, and then you helped the prosecutors instead of standing with me. Even his kids miss me, and Derek's girlfriend doesn't want me around them. So, that's how it is, even now, punished and treated like a threat. Derek wants us to pretend everything's normal while I'm still seen as dangerous. I told him we're done. Some betrayals you can't forgive, some bridges are just ashes. Sophia thought she was home free with her nice divorce settlement, but I'm not about to let her get away with it that easily. So, she headed off to a new city, thinking she could start over and maybe snare another rich guy. She couldn't have been more wrong about being in the clear. Big Jake was a lifesaver, he helped me dig into all the legal ways to get some real justice. You've got to make sure that Psycho doesn't just walk away from this mess, Jake said while we were fixing up his Harley in the garage. He was right. She'd cost me a fortune in legal fees, lost income, and wrecked my reputation. There had to be consequences. I found a lawyer who was all about suing for defamation and emotional distress. It set me back another $25,000 just to get started, but at this point, it was about showing that actions have real consequences. The great thing about civil court is you don't need to prove things beyond a shadow of a doubt, just show it's more likely than not that someone lied and hurt you. We had a ton of evidence, her entire browser history, which showed she was researching how to file fake reports, texts where she talked about her revenge plans, and the prosecutor's report saying her claims were malicious lies meant to do maximum damage. We logged every dollar she cost me, from $73,000 in legal fees to $180,000 in lost income, plus everything else. We were looking at $340,000 in direct damages, but I wanted more than that. I was going for punitive damages too. The case dragged on for 18 long months. Sophia hired a fancy lawyer and tried everything to dodge responsibility, but our evidence was rock solid. The big break came when we got her roommate to spill the beans under oath. The roommate admitted Sophia had plotted the whole thing against Derek's brother out of revenge. Jake was there for every single court session. He'd always say, "This is how justice should work." After 10 hours of jury deliberation, they came back with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. They awarded us $850,000, way more than we even asked for. The judge called it a deliberate attempt to ruin an innocent person's life, and he wasn't having it. But Sophia didn't have that kind of cash, so we started taking a chunk out of her paycheck, 25% off the top. We also put claims on any future property or money she tries to get. She even tried bankruptcy, but you can't shake off this kind of debt. Jake helped me keep tabs on her finances. She's making about $45,000 a year in retail management, barely enough to live on after we take our part. Every time she applies for a loan or a new job, our court win pops up on her record. She's stuck with this until she pays it off or dies, and honestly, that's pretty satisfying to me. I've become harder and less trusting because of all this. Even family turned their backs on me when things got tough. Derek still tries to make peace with Christmas cards, but he chose to believe a liar over his own brother. Some folks say I should move on, but unless you've had your life trashed by lies, you don't really get it. Jake sums it up perfectly: we didn't just get money back, we sent a message. And Sophia gets a reminder of that every month for the next 30 years.